The views and opinions expressed on this program are not necessarily the views of this station, its management, sponsors, or other hosts. If you have any comments or suggestions about this program, please contact us at radio@usaebn.org. That's radio@usaebn.org.
Welcome to a new Zeta Report here on USA Emergency Broadcasting Network. We're live first Mondays of every month, 4 p.m. Central Time, 5 p.m. Eastern Time on the Blog Talk Radio site. You can also find this episode as well as our other episodes of the Zeta Report on the YouTube for Nancy Lieder. Just go to YouTube, look up Nancy Lieder, Lieder, and Zeta Report will come up there. My name is Andre. I'm with USA Emergency Broadcasting Network, a host of this show and a couple other shows. I'd like to welcome back to the Zeta Report Nancy from ZetaTalk.com. Hi, Nancy.
Hi, I'm so pleased to be back. And Andre and I were just talking before the broadcast about how there seems to be a creeping disclosure about Nibiru and also about the aliens. It's like gradually in the news you see things in the headlines and more admissions, and it's like the old adage, if you put a frog in water and gradually raise the temperature, it never does notice when the water starts to boil and it's cooking, you know. And I think that they're trying to admit some of these things that have been covered up for decades and eons gradually. Nibiru in the news. Before we jump into that, in part, I just want to read the disclaimer. In partnership with USA
I was going to say, we should get to that.
Yeah. Zeta Talk and the Zeta Report will be discussing the challenges of living on a planet beset with change, rising seas, increasing earthquakes and volcanic activity, weather gone wild, and the worry of what to do in a worst-case scenario. We'll also inject Zeta Talk prophecy on what is coming next and advice on readiness plans and safe locations. Whenever Zeta Talk is quoted, please remember that prophecy is not fact. It is opinion. It only becomes fact when it happens. The Zetas are remarkably accurate but have been wrong on occasion. Bear that in mind. For more information on this subject, please visit ZetaTalk.com or the Zeta Report on YouTube. Questions from the chat and issues raised in the chat will be addressed toward the end of the hour after the main feature has been presented. Now, to get into why you're like a frog in the water and they're gradually raising the temperature as you might not notice, I'm jumping back 20 years and stepping through where we were with, the cover-up over Nibiru and where we've arrived. Nibiru, the name of the planet of the crossing, is seldom seen in print, but recently the pace has picked up. Nibiru, a.k.a. Planet X, was in the spotlight in 2003 due to the Zeta Talk prediction that the passage would occur shortly after May 15, 2003, and again in 2012 due to the assertion that the Mayan calendar had predicted the passage to occur on December 21, 2012. But why the new focus in 2017? The term Nibiru has been appearing in the mainstream media lately, not just the fringe media, various people making claims and posting videos. Nibiru is the official name assigned to the planet of the crossing by the ancient Sumerians, though it is also known by many other names, such as Planet X, Wormwood, or the Destroyer. That the mainstream media is doing this in and of itself is news. To avoid panic in the public, the cover-up over the approach of Nibiru was mandated by Reagan in an executive order after its approach was confirmed in 1983 by the IRAS team, infrared, up there. Up until the discovery, the search for the planet out toward Orion was openly admitted in the press. This gravity pull was often called nemesis in the press, quoting Astronomy magazine in 1981. Beyond Pluto in the cold, dark regions of space may lie an undiscovered 10th planet 2 to 5 times the size of Earth. Astronomers at the U.S. Naval Observatory are using a powerful computer to identify the best target zones, and a telescopic search will follow soon. Van Flandern thinks the 10th planet may have between 2 and 5 Earth masses, and lie 15 to 100 astronomical units from the Sun. End of the quote. When the Zeta Talk saga first started, the cover-up over Nibiru was intense. NASA even denied that such a thing as a rogue planet traveling afar from its sun could exist. Quoting a 2002 article from the American Scientist, Volume 90. For centuries, a planet has been defined as an object that orbits a star. This notion was recently upended when several groups of astronomers reported the discovery of planet-sized objects wandering through space on their own, with no parent star in sight. The discovery of these objects within dense stellar clusters has unsettled the astronomical community and raised questions about the nature of planets and how they might form, end quote. Meanwhile, in 2002, the Zeta Talk team was tracking just such a traveling planet via teams on 3 continents, Europe, Africa, and the U.S. This was a planet that emitted a dim light, the smoldering brown dwarf described by the Zetas, that was moving according to the Zeta coordinates. In 2001, it was seen from observatories. Zeta Talk was ridiculed on sci.astro by assigned astronomers in 2002, whom we took to calling the shepherds of the sheep of sci.astro. Quoting Jim Scotty, an astronomer who worked out of the observatory at Tucson, Arizona, where the notorious Pope Scope is located, and I quote, "I am speaking the truth when I say there is nothing to cover up in regards to your Planet X. It simply does not exist as you have described it, and the way that you describe it is totally inconsistent with the way we understand physics to work. Their object is not even consistent with an object which orbits the Sun in only 3,600 years, like Sitchin's fictitious Nibiru, and the object which Nancy claims." End of quote. In the winter of 2002 to 2003, when the Orion constellation was visible at night, it was traced by infrared. Meanwhile, the media was reporting that astronomers were busy focusing on tiny rocks like Eris, discovered out past Pluto, and temporarily given the name Planet X, just to confuse the public. Every little rock was called Planet X in those days. Coincidentally, Pioneer 10, sent out in the direction of Orion to see what it could see, died in 2003. A diagram appearing in the 1987 edition of the New Science and Invention Encyclopedia shows Nemesis, a popular name for our Sun's binary companion, as a dead star. The diagram also shows the approximate location of a 10th planet. Quoting NASA, "After more than 30 years, it appears the venerable Pioneer 10 spacecraft has sent its last signal to Earth. Pioneer's last, very weak signal was received on January 22, 2003. NASA engineers report that Pioneer 10's radioscope power source has decayed, and it may not have enough power to send additional transmissions to Earth. NASA's Deep Space Network did not detect a signal during the last contact attempt on February 7, 2003. End of the quote. At the same time, in the spring of 2003, Nibiru was quite visible as it passed over the Earth's orbit to snug up close to the Sun. Then NASA began a slow admission that rogue or traveling planets, as they were called, moving mysteriously through space, detached from any sun, could exist. They were discovering them. Was NASA trying to align with the facts, which were increasingly becoming obvious? These detached planets were termed exoplanets, and their announced discovery have taken an exponential leap, close to 0 through 2002, then approaching 50 up until 2007, then rising up over 100 for 2008 to 2010, then 200 in 2011, and zooming up to almost 800 in 2014. Since Nibiru can technically be called an exoplanet, they seem to be getting the world ready for Nibiru. Meanwhile, Nibiru next to the Sun was being photographed by the public, the elephant in the room. The brilliant moon swirls when the light from the Sun funneled down a tube formed by the swirl. The brilliant second sun captures at dawn and dusk, when the angle of sunlight bouncing off the dust shroud around Nibiru was optimal. In 2009, the winged globe even appeared on a SOHO image, briefly. The fluff-up over the Mayan calendar resurrected the name Nibiru, which NASA was quick to squelch. The cover-up over Nibiru has NASA front and center, the prime cover-up agent. Quoting a NASA site in 2012. The story started with claims that Nibiru, a supposed planet discovered by the Sumerians, is headed toward Earth. This catastrophe was initially predicted for May 2003, but when nothing happened, the doomsday date was moved forward to December 2012 and linked to the end of one of the cycles in the ancient Mayan calendar at the winter solstice in 2012, hence the predicted doomsday date of December 21st, 2012, end quote. Despite NASA's ridicule and debunking, the message did not die. Russia has always been more open about Nibiru and arranged to feature Zeta Talk on Dilo X on the Russia 1 channel in 2013. But notably, the subject has alien contact and the hybrid program as a focus, not Nibiru. Ridicule regarding the Nibiru message remained the mode, as this example from September 2015 demonstrates. This appears to be a bright moon swirl above the sun. I'm talking about a photo, which, by the way, you can see if you go look at the YouTube tomorrow after I get it up. It's a moon swirl above the sun, but discussion ensued blaming ice crystals in the sky. The facts of Nibiru or its moon swirls was hardly going to be admitted, so ridicule ensued. Quoting the Daily Caller, a video posted 12 days ago on YouTube showing a bright white sphere in the sky has as astrologists and conspiracy theorists a Twitter, because they say it's Planet X, a mysterious planet which could destroy the Earth sometime before Christmas. Conspiracy theorists and various astrologers warn that the video is clear evidence of the existence of Planet X, also known as Nibiru, end of the quote. Well, who says it's part of astrology? You know, and they try to, the cover-up is always tried ridiculed. You know, that crazy old lady up in Wisconsin who claims if you look, you know, to the right of the sun and blah, 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 and all this. And believe me, you know, if you went forward and made any kind of claims, you know, anywhere, you were ridiculed, you were crazy, you would have your internet connections cut off. I had that tried with me a few times. People have reported that to me. You know, they would practically take you out into a dark alley and punch you out. And it was, you know, you had to persevere and you had to say, I know I'm right, I'm going to keep at it. Okay, going on.
Nancy,
yeah.
Let's just to kind of flesh that out a little bit, I will say that our working relationship here with Zeta Report, it's going on a little over 2 years. But before that, I was following Zeta Talk in the poleshift.ning.com, and some of the press in regard to, you know, the whole thing about disinformation or misinformation campaigns, and all you have to have is a kernel of truth in there somewhere, and you can pile on all kinds of other lies and distractions too. But there was a lot out there back, let's call this 2010, 11, 12, of misinformation about you personally. I just want to clear up one thing, that I don't think NASA as an organization or as a government agency has ever mentioned anybody by name but yourself. And you
Right.
know, to call as a call out, don't listen to Nancy Leader. Oh, Zeta talk. Oh, she's crazy. Don't you know? You know, and that's an
Yeah,
actual thing you can
exactly.
track back. And then
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
the Wikipedia also has been growing because Wikipedia, has certain influence of users to be able to update information. The Wikipedia on Nibiru Cataclysm, this may be covered later in the episode, but has been cleaned up quite a bit over the past year and a half, I would say, and to the good, to more towards the truth aspect of what's going on with the skies and you personally. So
Yeah. Yeah, regarding, I actually wear it like a badge of honor that
yeah,
Morrison and various people at NASA, they'd have these hangouts or they'd give interviews and they'd say, but don't listen to Nancy Leader, and I have that in my newsletters, which you can find on my website. It's in New Zeta Talk. It's one of the drop-downs newsletters, newsletter 324, and it's a feature called When Liars Confess,
yeah, like that one.
about NASA because then I list some of the things, the interviews and the YouTubes and where you can find them, and I just don't believe they've ever said, maybe they praise somebody and say we're giving this person a badge of honor, but they never say, and don't listen to this and you don't do that if someone's crazy. If somebody
Right.
is flat out nuts, wandering around the street corner, saying the end is nigh or what, they don't say, oh, by the way, you shouldn't listen to that person because it's
Well, that comes.
self-evident.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
so anyway, I wear it like a badge of honor because it proves that I was a threat, to them.
Well, it's
So
better than being
thank you,
taken out
Andre.
back and beaten up in the alley.
Yeah. Well, I think they would have tried that if they could have. I've been told by the Zetas that there's been hundreds of attempts, to do away with me, and the Zetas interfere with that one way or the other, and so they just gave up, And ridicule became the norm, and now maybe they're I think they're planning to use Zeta Talk as a way of explaining it all. When they finally get around and the public finally says, "Oh my gosh, it's real," everybody, and they say, "What should we do? What about my 401k? What about my mortgage? What should?" They say, "Go talk to Nancy," and they'll have me on TV nonstop. I seriously expect to sit here in my jammies with one pot of coffee after another, in front of the Skype explaining, that you can eat bugs and what to do, so because they'll all run away from it, So I think if they couldn't kill me, they figured out a way to use me, but that's fine. I have no objection.
Right.
So moving along, now we're at the end of 2015. That was that article, which it was all ridicule. Now, in 2016, mention of Nibiru in the media seems to have disappeared, but in May 2016, Disclose TV ran a series of articles about Nibiru, claiming NASA and the CIA were fully aware of it. Meanwhile, astonishing photos of Nibiru were being captured, clearly its presence next to the sun. Quoting Disclose TV. I think that's by Jesse Ventura started that. I think
Yeah.
and it was
I
generally
think it's in that realm, but I've found that the Disclose TV and the websites associated with it are a little bit more consistent than, say, Alex Jones. Alex Jones is a lot more political.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think they both do a service, right? And I think it was Jesse. I don't know. Have I got the name right? Ventura, the former governor of Minnesota,
That's
and
correct.
a wrestler. Yeah. And
Yep.
he tries to rip the cover off. Yeah.
Yeah, Navy veteran, Navy SEAL Special Operations. Yeah,
Yep.
that guy.
Yep.
Yep.
That guy. I like him. Okay. And quoting Disclose TV, a NASA paper which was originally published in 1988 is said to reveal that there is a mysterious unnamed planet beyond the tiny ice planet of Pluto. It is believed by many that the Planet X referred to by NASA could be the fabled planet Nibiru, which many think could be the initiator of a major imminent apocalyptic event for the people of Earth. Best estimates by NASA suggest that the orbital period of the planet spanned a remarkable 3,600 years. The secret NASA files apparently reveal that planet Nibiru has disrupted the orbits of other planets in its orbital period, and that it is imminently about to enter a disruptive passage into the inner solar system. End of the quote. Pretty accurate, although at that time it was already in the inner solar system and being regularly photographed. We tracked it in 2001, 2, 3. I mean, this is all on my website, just gobby with information and photos and star charts. Just go there and get drunk on info. Okay, in October.
Nancy, sidetrack before we get too drunk on information. When the Zetas claimed about the May 15th, 2003 entering the solar system, was that a play on words? Because I think what we're worried about, or not worried about, what we're tracking here is the passage, not the entering of the solar system. It's more the exit out of the solar system past our planet, correct?
Yeah, exactly right. And it's very complicated, but essentially it has a 3,600-year orbital period, and that means going around Nemesis, which is a dark, unlit binary of the sun way out there, and then swinging back toward our sun. And it passes by, and it's a creep past the sun. It doesn't strike it because there's a whole thing with gravity repulsion force. Gravity attracts and pushes away at the same time, and it's really a gravity particle flow, and so it creeps past the sun, and it's outbound from the sun now, and then as it passes Earth, it will create a magnetic crustal shift. We move, and it doesn't, because it's a bully planet. It's 23 times as massive, 4 to 5 times in diameter, and we say, well, why don't we move out of the way? We're going around and around the sun in our orbit, but no, we have stopped in our orbit and did so in 2003, and here's the explanation. Benign aliens are tipping the globe forward, the northern hemisphere forward for summer and away for winter, and they've done this through many pole shift or passages in the past so as to maintain a schoolhouse for humans, because this is our little kindergarten here, and so we don't freeze and fry. And you have to take all that on faith unless you go out and check the constellations very closely and research a lot of the documentation I have on Zeta Talk, but the whole thing about there it is next to the sun, just go take a photograph. You don't have to take anything on faith to see that, because it's big and bold. Alrighty, in October 2016, the Iraq Prime Minister referenced Nibiru when opening a new airport, reminding the public of the long history from the ancient Sumerians. Quoting the Daily Mail, Mr. Sinjan claimed the extraterrestrial beings had used the ancient airport in Dahir Khar, southern Iraq, for interplanetary missions. He even suggested that ancient spaceships launched from the site 5,000 years BC, before Christ, had discovered both Pluto and the mythical planet of Nibiru. So he brought up the name Nibiru, and it hit and it was in the title, and it was talked about. And I said, well, here we go. Now, instead of, oh, no, there is nothing like that, Nibiru doesn't exist, now we're hearing about it in articles. People are mentioning it. This is what Andre and I were noticing. The frog is in the water and the heat's being turned up. Almost as though an explosion of interest in Nibiru were known to be scheduled for early 2017, the Discovery Channel sent a film crew to the Zeta Talk headquarters, that's my house, to film on May 29, 2016. The show was scheduled to air on the American Heroes channel on February 26, 2017, and it did in February, in a series called How the World Ends. Right on schedule in January 2017, a previously unknown author, David Mead, predicted Nibiru would cause a disaster in 2017, even citing the date of the rapture as September 23, 2017. Did he have a prediction accuracy track record? No, he was unknown. But this kicked the issue into the media in January 2017. Everybody had an article on him. Perhaps that was by design. They just wanted to get it back in the media. I mean, the guy committed suicide by naming that date. Nothing will happen on that particular date. And he'll be, like, well, flush him down the toilet. But meanwhile, he's the excuse for all this to get back in the media. Okay, the Washington Post had an article. This is Hillary's newspaper. This is, lie, lie, lie. Oh, our rumors and unsubstantiated sources say, but here's the Washington Post, part of the good old cover-up group, right? And they say, I'm just stunned, if all goes according to wild conjecture, planet Earth and planet Nibiru are set to collide in the autumn, twin cosmic shooters in a game of apocalyptic marbles. Nibiru is playing for keeps, bringing sinkholes, firestorms, and the general annihilation of life as we know it. The concept mutated toward doomsday in 1995, when a self-avowed alien contactee and psychic, Nancy Leader, warned about a collision with Nibiru on her site, Zeta Talk. As outlandish as the prospect might seem, the concept took hold. Now, that's the end of the quote. But you notice they got my name in there spelled right. They got Zeta Talk in there, And so does the Wikipedia article that's front and center if you enter any kind of a search engine term. And I think, boy, they don't want me to go away. They've all, and everybody is supposed to say Nibiru. Oh, wait, that's Nancy Leader Zeta Talk. And then anytime that they panic and they have to have answers about what kind of bugs to eat, my phone is going to be ringing, etc., that type of thing. I'm sure of it. So, almost simultaneously, virtually on the same day, a brilliant second sun display occurred in Brazil and hit the press. This was
that
all
the same
major
day?
media. It was almost on the same day. Really, we're talking about in January.
I didn't realize that. I know
they're. Yeah.
That Brazilian second sun is undeniable.
Yeah, it was. Oh, so yeah, and they get a lot of good shots down there in Brazil, because it's south of the equator, and Nibiru is just a little bit below the ecliptic, so they may have a less of a more direct shot. They say that everybody's gone to the Antarctica, to the South Pole, to be able to view Nibiru. Well, you can view it anywhere. If you just look to the right of about the 4 o'clock position in the northern hemisphere, you get down below the equator. It because everyone at that side of the globe is standing on their head. They have their little feet glued to the earth and they're standing upside down. Their view is different. So if you're far enough, like in Paraguay or something like that, you're going to see Nibiru more at the 11 o'clock position. And if you're up there in Sweden, it's going to be the 4 o'clock position, on the opposite side. So you have to bear that in mind. But anyway, this is what they wrote about the second sun. It was just a gorgeous picture. And as I said, come and check my YouTube if you want to see the pictures. It's Nibiru shocked locals film Planet X Ring of Fire over Earth. The footage was filmed in Sao Tome das Letras, Brazil, in December. Oh, that was in December, but it didn't hit the media until this article about David Mead and screaming Nibiru, Nibiru, and it's like they coordinated this. It was a coordinated press release to get the word Nibiru out there, right? And it showed a massive, bizarre orange light totally illuminating the evening sky. For years, conspiracy theorists have a giant hidden planet is set to smash into Earth with catastrophic consequences. And I'm just seeing, there's a producer and a director behind the scenes here, I swear, right?
Yeah.
Brazil was in the press again on May 25th when a senator stood up in their plenary, that's their parliament plenary, to announce that Nibiru was a real and present danger. He was, of course, ridiculed and told his comments were irrelevant, probably inappropriate too, But to my knowledge, this is the first time Nibiru has been raised openly by a government official as a threat to mankind. Quoting the Brazilian paper Folhaba, I know I'm mispronouncing that name. Anyway, they say here we go. Telemario Moto drew the attention of parliamentarians during the session on May 25th, announcing in a speech to the Senate plenary the collision of an X7 planet known as Nibiru with Earth. I have received the information from an elect who said NASA states that the planet Nibiru is coming toward Earth and the current cycle will be over soon, said the senator. According to Telemaro, the NASA report says that the planet changes the gravitational field of the Earth and that, with that, 2/3 of humanity will perish. 2/3 will die of hunger and disease. I passed this to my advisors to do a study to see if this planet Nibiru is really approaching the Earth, he announced. Well, there you go. Good for him. Courageous man. As far as I know, he's still alive. Let's hope we have more, and I think we will. Then, on May 19th, Zeta Talk and the Pole Shift Ning were on REN TV in Russia. And this time, the focus was on Earth changes. The drip attention being paid to Nibiru and to the Zeta Talk site is having a palpable increase. But this does not mean the cover-up has gone away. If anything, it has become more shrill. Every time truth is muttered, look for one of the Nibiru excuses to be shouted from the rooftops. And you have to bear this in mind. The minute some truth comes out, the one person standing up and saying the truth, there's going to be 45 in a chorus behind him, drowning him out with waving flags and, whatever it takes, fireworks, whatever it takes to distract, whatever it takes to counter that statement. You can expect, denial, disinformation to become more shrill, more loud, and you have to just follow that truth, and grip onto that, because that's what's going to happen. And the reason they do this, they feel that people cannot deal with the facts, that people will panic, they'll have heart attacks, they'll faint, they'll clog the emergency rooms, they'll quit their jobs, they'll run screaming down the streets, they'll pull their money out of the banks, they'll have suicide pacts, they'll all slit their throats or the throats of their whatever.
Come on, Nancy.
Or get drunk.
They put on their Nikes, their white Nikes, and their black jumpsuits and wait for the rapture.
Yeah, everything horrible is going to happen. And they say there'll be more death and destruction if they know the truth than if we just keep lying to them. So let's keep lying. Now, this is self-serving because, of course, the wealthy people and the politically powerful, they're on top of the
getaway plan. They've got their getaway plan all set up already.
Yeah, and they're bunkers, and they know. And when the time comes, they'll slip away. They don't want your cars clogging the road. They don't want your messy panic, plastered against their windows. They want you to just stay dumb. And then once they get to that movie 2012 had it right when the guy said, "When are we going to tell the people, right, that all this stuff is happening?" And he said, "When we're safely in our safe place, when we're all the way to China, when we're on the boats, and when we're afloat, then we'll tell the people, because we have to worry about, the survival of mankind." And meanwhile, this guy's an old fart, and he's not having kids, and you see the Queen in the background with her little corgis, and all of this is, to maintain mankind, and that's BS, because they're just looking out for their own skin. So you'll get this kind of screaming and yelling that it's not true, that's all garbage, it's only going to cause high tides, don't listen to Nancy Leader, etc., because they worry that people can't deal with it. Of course, they can deal with the truth. They're dealing with the facts, but you can't. And you gotta look at that very, very closely and say that's not logical, and it's not fair. Okay, here's some of the excuses. Global warming in the press recently because Trump got out of it and said it's not man-made, and I'm not paying $100 billion to other, countries, and it's just I'm not doing it. He doesn't say what's causing it is Nibiru, but he does say it's climate change is real, but it's not man doing it. We didn't do it. Okay. And now it's renamed to be called climate change because global warming, it was found to be fraudulent data, and it was in the media, and the UN was twinkering with the data and all that, and so now they changed it to climate change. Per the Zetas, this was all to provide an excuse for the Earth changes expected from the approach of Nibiru, erratic weather and rising seas. The IPCC, under the auspices of the UN, was found to be manufacturing fraudulent data. Per the Zetas, this will never be admitted because the establishment fears the courts would be clogged with lawsuits over carbon footprint fees and taxes. And that's a fact, that I'm doing this up for a current newsletter that'll come out this week about the carbon footprint stuff. In 2003, George Bush held what it was called a fence mending thing in France with a bunch of heads of states, and he said this is to mend fences for people that are upset because we invaded Iraq. And these people came out with the most ghastly look on their face, like they were told that their mothers have cancer or something. It was something horrible. So according to the Zetas, he admitted that Nibiru was real and would pass, and said, but the real threat is panic in the people, and you have to go along with a cover-up, or we'll kill you, or whatever, or you take the silver or take the steel. What is that statement? Like we'll either shoot you if you don't take the bribe, death or the bribe, and they take the bribe, and the way they got money was through, this carbon footprint thing, which is a huge amount, hundreds of billions of dollars passed to third world countries, or China gets to pass money, and then they make behind the scenes arrangements. Okay, if you plant trees, I'll give you this huge money, but you got to keep your mouth shut, and like that, so it's part of the global warming fraud. And Trump is right to back out of it. He's laying the groundwork for the truth about Nibiru to come out. What about the increase in volcanism? That's global warming? Desperate to explain the roiling core of the Earth, causing even inactive volcanoes to come to life, the cover-up invented a new excuse. Global warming did it. Of course, a Nibiru passage could have done it too, but quoting a 2012 article in the Science Daily, when the ice melts, the Earth spews fire. The periods of high volcanic activity followed fast global temperature increases and associated rapid ice melting. In times of global warming, the glaciers are melting on the continents relatively quickly. At the same time, the sea level rises. The weight on the continents decreases, while the weight on the oceans, tectonic plates, increases. Thus, the stress changes within the Earth to open more routes for ascending magma. Now, the reason we have volcanic activity is because of melting ice. It's all contorted, but you should see what they come up with. They make excuses right and left, And the Earth wobble, where Nibiru is making the Earth wobble like a top, well, that's because the Arctic has more ice that is melted, and Antarctic at the south there has more ice, and so it's like a top that is nailed at the bottom and goes woo, woo, woo. What? None of this is logical. None of this is per physics. None of this is historic, But they make things up, and they get things out there in the media, and then people read the headlines or something, and they say, oh, I guess that explains it, because they're all very busy, leading busy lives, and if some expert or the media says this stuff, they say, oh, okay. Earthquakes also have had an almost exponential increase. The excuses here include fracking and even rainfall. Yes, rainfall. Quoting the Wikipedia on fracking, A report in the UK
Come on.
concludes that fracking was the likely cause of some small earth tremors that happened during the shale gas drilling. In addition, the United States Geological Survey reports that earthquakes induced by human activity have been documented in a few locations. So they come out and they all support each other. Oh, that's it, Fracking is causing, it never used to, but all of a sudden it is. All right. And here we go. If blaming fracking in encroaching on corporate drilling activities, we can blame the rain for earthquakes. This is where they blame the rain for earthquakes.
Yeah.
Quoting a 2011 article in the National Geographic, rain-induced erosion loosens faults, scientists say. The devastating magnitude 7 earthquake that hit Haiti in early 2010 came only 18 months after Haiti had been deluged by several hurricanes and tropical storms. And another large earthquake, a magnitude 6.4 trembler that rocked Taiwan in 2009, occurred only 7 months after the area had been hit by Typhoon Morakot, which dropped 9.5 feet of rain in 5 days. So there you have it. You have an earthquake, it was due to the rain. The rain did it,
Well,
Never
I think
used to do it.
You approach that from, try to discern that statement a little. I understand the fracking thing. It's injecting water into the ground very, very deep into rock. The same kind of methods they use to break the rock to extract the gas, they pump water back in to get it out. So that there's some truth to that. It won't explain the places where they're not fracking having an exponential increase in earthquakes.
Yeah.
But
You're thinking again,
erosion,
Andre.
Yeah, sorry, my bad. When you're talking about this rain, 9.5 inches of rain or feet or what have you. Okay, let's say a dam loosens up and a dam breaks out on the West Coast, or any of those things could happen. But if the reservoir loses all that water, shouldn't that argument say that there should be a whole bunch of earthquakes in there? Or when we had the drought out on the West Coast, California, for 4 years in a row, all the water that God had evaporated out of all these major reservoirs that are, hundreds of feet deep. Shouldn't there have been a bunch of earthquakes because that weight of the water is gone? I mean, when you discern and you use critical reasoning on some of these statements, it kind of makes the scientists look like they're lying.
Yeah, and they are. And they
Okay.
are. They're
good. I'm onto it.
It's like, you want your job? You want to keep
Right.
your job, or do you want a bonus in your paycheck? That type of thing.
Do you not want to have
like
a nasty accident and your brakes fail in
Yeah.
your car or whatever?
Oh, there's been so many people that have been killed. So many people who said, "We've just got to tell the public the truth," and whoops, they didn't make it home. They don't make it home, because they're watched closely. If they're in a position to have data and to know the truth and be able to provide something, and flash it out there, get it out on the internet, they're watched. Their phones are tapped, their email read, I don't know what all, but they're watched, and I have been told, blah 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 blah, didn't make it home. Yep. And I mean, I can tell you some. It's there's no question this goes on. Okie doke, solar cycles. Blaming the sun for all manner of effects caused by Nibiru has been the plan of the cover-up from the start, per the Zetas. Thus, warnings as early as 2006 that this solar cycle, to peak in 2012 or so, was going to be the worst. It was positively asleep, however. The sun didn't cooperate. No sunspots, just sleepy. But NASA and the others, given responsibility for maintaining the Nibiru excuses, had the sun at the ready. Quoting from a 2006 NASA article. Solar cycle 24, due to peak in 2010 or 2011, looks like it's going to be one of the most intense cycles since record-keeping began almost 400 years ago. Solar physicist David Hathaway of the Marshall Space Flight Center said that. He and colleague Robert Wilson presented this conclusion last week at the American Geophysical Union meeting in San Francisco. Okay, it was going to be horrible. Well, it was the opposite. It was one of the. I don't know if it broke records on no sunspots, but it came close. Sleepy, sleepy sun. And after 2012 came and went with a sleepy sun in the skies, what was the reaction? Nothing in the news. Everybody was let off the hook. Did these guys get called on the carpet for this? No. People had noticed. And I quote from the Daily Mail in 2013. Sunspot numbers are well below their values from 2011, and strong solar flares have been infrequent, as this image shows. Despite NASA forecasting major solar storms, experts have been baffled by the apparent lack of activity, with many wondering if NASA simply got it wrong. End of the quote. Well, according to the Zetas, it was partly Nibiru's fault because Nibiru was pointing its north pole toward the Earth, being between the Sun and the Earth, and pointing its south pole toward the Sun. And the south pole is an intake. The little magnetics go in there and they bound out of the North Pole. So it was like a little vacuum cleaner turned toward, and all sunspots are basically magnetic. So this little, south pole of Nibiru was sucking up all the little magnetons from the sun and easing the pressure. And that's why we didn't have big sunspot activity. Okay, meanwhile, in 2017, the second sun has become more dramatic and frequent and has also been appearing in the mainstream media. The Internet sported a video of a second sun filmed in Australia on April 24th, and a video taken in Wales on May 3rd was reported in the Daily Mail. These were clearly not lens flares or ghosts or sun ghosts within the camera, and were placed vis-a-vis the ecliptic, where one would expect to find Nibiru. Notably, the Daily Mail article did not draw a conclusion on what was causing the display, but rather reporting the facts. Quoting the Daily Mail, now notice we're into 2017. The frog is in the water and it's beginning to boil. All right, 2017, quoting the Daily Mail. It is not known what caused the mystical phenomenon, but this could not be a sundog, caused by light interacting with ice crystals in the atmosphere, as this only occurs at a position 22 degrees from the sun. Sundogs are obvious. They're usually right or left or top, and what the 22 degrees means is if you consider the far right and the far left to be 90 degrees, etc., and the sun in front of you at 0, you go out 22 degrees, that's where you'll see your sundog. And there's like a halo that goes around the sun, and the sundog is right on that halo, and it forms like a rainbow effect, orange, with many colors right along the halo edge. It is so distinctive. For anyone who's ever... What?
Yeah, I was just going to say that the sundog phenomenon is also associated with ice crystals more often than not. When they get the sundog explanation, it's almost immediately followed by quote-unquote experts as ice crystals in the air, and that ice crystal formation makes it almost certain that the light sources that you see on the outside edge at that 22 degrees is going to be at 90 degrees from the center of the sun. So it's going to be one side and the other side, and then top and bottom. It's not going to be crazy like out in a corner and one farther away and one closer. It's very uniform due to the structure of the ice crystals that's flowing through it. Now, if you're in a desert situation where it's not extremely cold outside and you get the same effect, then you're going to have to wonder what's creating it if it's not ice, right?
Yes. Yeah. There are things, people who, because I get a lot of people send me photos and say, is this Planet X? Is this Nibiru? And another one to research and become familiar. And the poleshiftning.com has an excellent blog called Planet X Photos. And the whole top part of that blog, which remains the first thing you encounter when you go in there, explains how you determine if it's a lens flare. In the first place, use a video camera and move it around, because lens flares will dance like a square dance is going on. They move. Any object that's out there that is Nibiru or the moon swirls or whatever is going to be static. And then there's ghosts in the camera, which are actually just reflections of the sun. And you can have a ghost of the sun, down on your foot or something like that, to where it couldn't possibly be another object. It's not out there in the sky, and you can research this. You can so you learn to identify what's what, and be able to discern the real thing. And lots of examples on the real thing there, lots of analysis by people, so I'm not saying that every time there's a thing in the sky next to the sun is, oh, there it is, Nibiru. That's not true. Half the time, at least half the time, it's not. So go there, get educated, and then go take your pictures. Okay, the double helix. Simultaneously, amateur captures of the Nibiru complex have more clarity due to Nibiru drawing ever closer. The double helix appearance was dominant in 2003, when Nibiru could still be seen in the night sky, but has been elusive in photos as Nibiru made its way past the sun. This helix is caused by the two dominant moons of Nibiru, both sporting minor moons in a moon swirl, one on either side. Now it looks like the planet it looks like a football player and is running towards you, and he's got shoulder pads on and his head is down. That's what it looks like. And when you could see it, like when it came inbound in 2003 in the night sky and crossed over, the orbit to where it was lost in the glare of the sun, you could see that there was like a DNA helix thing swirling back behind it. Now, each of these two dominant moons has many minor moons, that they're doing a dance, and that constitutes the shoulder pad. Well, we could see that when it came in the night sky. And then Nibiru looked like a fuzzy spot in the sky, shrouded by red dust. But now we are beginning to see the dominant helix again, which means it is coming at us, and it's at a pretty fast clip, and we're beginning to see that. This is all an indication that it will soon be too visible for people. People will be able to look up and they'll say, look, what's that thing? Etc. And they have to get the word out there. They have to get people used to the concept of Nibiru and the name Nibiru, and where to go if you want to ask a lot of questions and you're desperate. And believe me, I get this email from people. I have 3 children and blah blah blah. And what do I do? And and I give them the best of, But the point is, this is all out there on my website. This is all, but really, every person's situation is unique. And of course, we don't have time to hold everybody's hands. That's not going to happen. The Zeta Talk website has safe locations, and what that means is it tells you how to analyze your existing location as to how safe it is, and you can get a picture of what direction where should you go. Well, you shouldn't be on the beach. You shouldn't be in a big city. If you are in a big city and you can't get away, you should be doing container gardening. You should understand how to cobble together a houseboat. Get plenty of fish hooks. And believe me, Andre and I have gone through all kinds of survival mechanisms like this. And one of my proudest hours was the vitamin hour, where I discovered you can get all your essential vitamins from weeds and bugs, and I mean all of them. You do not have to have deficiency diseases, and how to get electricity going from car parts, etc., that you got to do your homework. Don't come and say to Nancy, what should I do, unless you have researched everything that's out there, and we made it easy for you. We almost made it fun. Okay, our stalwart, Alberto in Italy, an old man, who's been photographing the Nibiru complex since 2003 using filters for red, has also just recently been able to capture this double helix, even in a capture that used no filters at all. Nibiru is clearly drawing closer, and we are likely to see an explosion of attention in the media as a result. This should be no surprise to those of you who have listened to our USA EBN broadcasts presented as the Zeta Report for the past 2 years, as we have been keeping you informed. And that's the end of my prepared lecture. We did pretty good.
Oh.
We're approaching the end of the hour. Yeah.
Yeah. I will say, though, that we do have a lot of those survival tips, preparedness tips, all in catalog formation on the YouTube for Zeta Report. So if you want to look up Nancy Leader on YouTube and scroll down, anything that says Zeta Report in the past couple of years is probably going to be something with a preparedness or informational. I'm not going to say that all the Zeta reports on your you've been doing this longer than I have, Nancy, but the recent ones you'll see, it's like one is about wealthy bunkers, where we talk about, and this was January of this year, I believe, that we were talking about the elite and their exodus and their plans. But probably the best recommendation I could give anyone is to, just check out these websites that we were talking about. poleshift.ning.com is a great resource that has several different blogs dedicated to Earth changes, where you want to track meteors, fireballs in the sky, if you want to track volcano activity, if you want to track earthquakes. But that's a great place to go at the safe locations. You can also get that on a PDF. It's one of the drop-downs under survival on the poleshift.ning site. And you mentioned that earlier, the steps to, if you want to be prepared for the passage of Nibiru and the symptoms of pole shift, then here's what you do, and boom, 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 and there's 7 steps, and there's also a PDF that you can download that shows major cities, countries, counties, regions, and what the predictive nature of the Zetas say for those, which is really interesting. I mean, that's why some of us live in the upper Midwest, I would say. Some of us.
Yeah, it's going to be a good place. That if you take a look at the new Zeta Talk predicted new geography, we should have a climate like Alabama, and and a little not quite the severity of winters, and and be out of the water. I'm looking back, and we started our association March 2nd, 2015, off-grid energy option. Then survival mindset, how if you share versus hoarding is better. And then we talk about what the Zetas say about the predicted Earth plate movements. And then in June, the 3,600-year signature, there's no question it comes through every 3,600 years. July, evidence of Nibiru, talking about, July, update on, Zeta Report in August, pending disasters in North America. New Madrid, when it goes, what'll happen. September, survival tips, naked and afraid level. What do you do? You should think like that. What do? You can eat squirrels and rats. I kid you not. People do. During the Civil War, that's what they did. October, the 7 steps. How do you go? That's a pole shifting thing, 7 steps. Well, the Zetas actually put it out. But they help you. They hold your hand. It's basically, here's where you live. Is it a safe spot? Let's see how the water will rise. Natty. Right. You can be completely blitzed out in panic and go through those 7 steps, and you'll know what to do. In November of 2015, climate change impact. In other words, just talking about what's really going. Houseboats in December. Vitamins in nature, January 2016, my favorite. Then Nemesis, the whole history of that dark binary twin. By the way, Planet 9, the gravity tug out there, it's combining both the sun's binary twin and Nibiru. They had it all confused, but they did it deliberately so that people wouldn't be able to they would get familiar with the term and the concept. And after denying that there was anything out toward Orion at all, they said, there's something out there tugging away. We have been, it's the water is turned up, the heat is turned up on that frog in the water. Then in March, we revisited flooding, talked about Katrina, what you can learn. In April, Nibiru visibility, increasing in model communities in Maine. What can you learn from them? There's a lot of them out there. Some are successful, some not. Learn from failure. Is it safe to fly? June. July, martial law versus national emergency. What's the diff? Then in August, daily wobble. Proof. How do you discern this? And it's right there in front of your nose. September, history of the prongs. And we were hoping for an announcement by what they called a multi-pronged approach. Planet 9, this, that. Well, that failed, So here we are again, hoping for something else to happen in 2017, the frog in the water. Then we get into October, last October, we talked about aliens, little aliens. Then Nibiru visibility again, periodically, because it keeps getting more visible. In last November, can the Internet be shut down? What you should know about the Internet. Then December, mythical creatures and real creatures. It's my way of talking about Bigfoot and stuff. It was kind of a fun hour. And this January, we went through what I just did, 2 years. Where have we been? February, wealthy bunkers. Andre mentioned that. Cover up history, magnetosphere scramble, why we're getting a lot of EMP. And last month, find your survival niche, because you have a specialty. If you develop that, you don't have to be jack of all trades, and develop your specialty, and then everybody, you be welcome in a survival community. And that's it. That's what we did for the last 2 years. Quite impressive, Andre.
Well, we've done other things too, but that's the ones that the Zeta report that we're tracking with the partnership between USA Emergency Broadcasting Network and Zeta report and Nancy. Yeah.
Yes. You guys chunk along every month. You do. I mean, how often are you on the air? Yeah. Nonstop.
Twice a month with a couple other shows, and then also a lot of our feeds for the network go out to podcast sites like Spreaker, and then we also have a live feed on our website, usaebn.org, that does the 24-hour feed, and Zeta Report and Zeta Talk are part of that too. So there's other ways to get this, but I would say for the visual aspect, pretty much the best place to go is Nancy Leader YouTube to catch the Zeta Reports. You want more information about the history of Nancy and Zeta Talk, you can always check out zetatalk.com. And then, as the aforementioned, poleshift.ning.com, which tracks the Earth changes component and some of the more current event components. Because those of you who don't know out there, Nancy started publishing this information on zetatalk.com in 1995. That's 2 or 3 years after the internet started. So it's been out for several years, and the ongoing accuracy and the tracking of the accuracy of the Zeta Talk predictions is off the charts as well. So that's why we bring Nancy on this show, and partnership with the USA EBN, which hopefully this information gets out to people and they take it to heart. So speaking of which, you just listen to your heart. If the information sounds like it's something that resonates with you, or it sounds like the truth, research it more. That's how I found Zeta Talk and poleshift.ning, and eventually Nancy, was by trying to figure out what was going on with the Earth changes in the skies, and brought me to find the more accurate information. And here we are. So it's not a lot of homework. You just kind of have to look at the skies and do some critical reasoning about facts. The fear will go away once you learn more. Once you have more information about how to handle the upcoming changes, it becomes a little less stressful, because you can make a plan, and those plans, need to be followed if you want to be successful. So we're just here to give you the information.
And it could even be fun. Remember, you don't have to punch the time clock. The kids get out of school. You lose weight. You don't have a boss. I mean, there's all kinds of things to look forward to. No taxes. Right. Right.
No commuting to work in the bitter cold. You can just go outside and chop some wood and start a fire. It's all good.
That's right. Yeah.
Well, thanks again, Nancy. Wonderful talking to you. Great information about the history of the Nibiru and kind of the ramping up over the past couple of months, 6 months to say, of the information coming out. So stay on your toes, everybody. Check out zetatalk.com, poleshift.ning.com. If you want more preparedness information, you can definitely check out usaebn.org. Thanks, Nancy. Always good to talk to you.
Yeah. Same to you, Andre. Good night, folks. Bye-bye.
Bye. You've been listening to the Zeta Report here on USA Emergency Broadcasting Network. We broadcast live the first Monday of every month, 5 p.m. Eastern Time. You can check out the YouTube video for this the day after the Blog Talk Radio broadcast. Check it out at YouTube, Nancy Leader channel on YouTube. Just look up Zeta Report or Zeta Report USA EBN on the YouTube. Thanks for listening, everybody. Remember, discern everything and try to put the puzzle together for yourself. Stay safe, America, and the world. Why not? Stay safe, everybody.